Good morning. My name is Karina. I work with St. Martin's University and I'm currently an intern with the Career Center. So thank you so much for being here today to do this for our students.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
Of
I
course.
am Brianna Kemp. I am the Assistant HR Director with the Kent School District. Over the Employment Support Team, so that does all of our recruitment and onboarding, so happy to be here. Cool things about Kent, we are one of the largest, most culturally diverse school districts in the state of Washington. We have about 25 to 27,000 students a year, kind of fluctuates a bit here and there, and that goes across 42 schools. My favorite thing about our district is we have 130 or over 130 languages represented by our students and their families, which makes it just a really cool place to live and work. With our diverse student population, our big thing is that we want to make sure that we're living our three core values of equity, excellence, and community every single day to achieve our mission of successfully preparing all students for their futures.
That's awesome. Well, so I know probably one of the first questions that students will have is, could you just talk a little bit about what are your normal recruiting, hiring processes? What's the schedule? Kind of what could they expect?
Oh, yeah. So our current normal, of course, given where we're
Yeah.
at. So we don't know exactly where our individual vacancies are just yet. Of course, we're still pretty early in the season. It's typically the end of April. We're probably looking at early May this year. But right now we do have content pools open or all major content pool positions posted. So you can at least get an application in the system. We're screening those pretty regularly. And me and my team are personally using this time to connect candidates with principals based on their interests. So I'll be going through, you're interested in high school, social studies. I'm going to find a high school principal that can share more about that building. So that way when it does come time, you know a little bit about what schools are there. And we are offering early hire letters for some positions at this time, but we are offering interviews for all content areas. So that way we can kind of know who's really interested and have that prepared. So when those numbers do come out, that we're prepared to start hiring right off the bat. So early May is what we're looking at for actual hiring.
Okay, and I know some of our education students always have this question too of, are
Mhm.
they able to apply before they're fully certified? Like if they're in the process and they're just about done, is that okay
Yes,
to apply? Okay.
our application does require they upload something into the certificate field. We just recommend putting up a Word document that says, graduating the state anticipated by the time school starts. And
Okay.
our principals know to look for that.
Okay, great. I know that that's something they always worry about. I think, okay, I definitely want to ask and see what everyone's process is or how they deal with that. So
Oh, yeah.
great. So what are the qualities that you most look for in your new hires?
So the two things that I think are pretty universal, number one, equity-minded, again, widely diverse school district. So having people with that lens and that focus and knowing that every student means every student is really big for us. And the second is willingness to learn, is just knowing that we are here to help you succeed. Your first year teaching is going to be really hard, as I'm sure they all know, and that everyone's here to help you and just kind of being willing to take feedback and, be adaptable as you move forward.
That's great. So kind of talking about like the hiring process again, what do you look for in your application materials? And I know students kind of have specific questions about resumes, cover letters, anything specific that you look for on their application as well.
Definitely. Resumes, big one is just number one, visually, just making it very clean, easy to follow, easy to read. Number one thing I look for in a resume as from an HR perspective. But in terms of what's included, making sure it's really relevant, that being a paper boy 10 years ago might not need to be on there. But also, again, as a first year teacher, you're not going to have a lot of teaching experience outside of what you've done in school. But if you have volunteer experience or anything that you've done with students or coaching, guiding, mentoring, definitely including anything like that, professional associations that are education relevant. Cover letter, the big one, I'm always looking for the why. Like, I want to know why that person wants to be a teacher or why they want to go into working for a school district, and really using that to tell your story. You don't have to go through your resume again. And this one is kind of cover letter and for interviewing tips is being able to speak to what you've actually done. It's hard because, again, you haven't really had your own classroom outside of student teaching, but I don't want to hear about what your mentor did and really like that they did that. I want to see what you learned, what you saw them do, and what you implemented into your student teaching and things like that. Just being really like what you have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that actually kind of sparks another question for me.
Mhm.
So that's great for like the application material. So then let's say the student does get called in for an actual interview. Then in the interview process, what are things that they could expect or what types of questions do you think that they should come prepared with, or just if you could talk
Yeah.
a little bit more about like the interview portion itself?
I would say the number one thing to always have prepared, no matter what job you're applying for, is some kind of like 30-second elevator speech about yourself. Because it's either the first question is going to be, tell me about yourself and your experience. Or if we don't ask that, you're always going to get time at the end to say anything we, didn't ask about. And that kind of gives you a chance to say, if there's these 3 things I really want someone to know about me, if they don't come out in the question, I want to make sure I have a chance to say that. And then for our district specifically, again, widely diverse populations. So there's probably going to be something about equity and how you incorporate that into your classroom. How do you work with other people? Collaboration, big thing, I think, across all districts. Just being kind of prepared with examples. Me personally, I always come up with like 5 scenarios and making sure I can explain those 5 things that might fit to a variety of questions. So you're kind of prepared with a specific example is my recommendation.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see. Are you looking for someone with any special credentials or practical experience? I know you touched on it a little bit with our previous questions.
So primarily with, of course, having the credential that meets whatever you want to teach. An ELL endorsement, even if you don't ever plan to teach ELL, is a big thing just because, again, a huge ELL population in our district. But nothing really other than that, as long as you're prepared in the content area.
Okay, I know we have quite a few students that are actually in with that endorsement, so that would be great to share with them that this is a great district for that. So, okay, that's great to know. Thank you. So I know that you said it's kind of hard right now with everything that's going on to be able to answer this fully, but what open positions do you anticipate having this year, or maybe do you know of any internships or anything that you could speak to?
So for our jobs, so we always anticipate, given that we are a bigger district, we're going to hire a little bit of everything. Of course, special education, dual language, if there's anyone on the Spanish side. Not as much ELL, specific. We do a lot of co-teaching, but elementary is a big one. We have 28 elementary schools and people retire, people leave. We know that's going to happen. So those are the big ones we know probably for sure. And then internship wise, we don't have a lot. We do have just opportunities for volunteering and things like that.
Okay, perfect. So for new teachers, how does the district support the beginning teachers?
So this is probably the favorite thing about our district in terms of support we have is a phenomenal new teacher mentor program that goes for the first 2 years of teaching. It's grant funded. So we have 6 full-time release mentors that work out of their district office. They're never actually at the district office because they spend all of their time at the buildings. A new teacher would be paired with one of those 6, and that person's with them from start to finish their entire first year. They help get the classroom set up before school starts. They are meeting with them on a regular basis, kind of more or less depending on their need. And they're confidential and non-evaluative. So they are cry, curse, scream. It doesn't matter. They are just there to help that teacher in the first year. Because again, it's going to be really hard. And we want to make it as easy as we can. It rolls into a second year mentor, but it's an in-building mentor match. So very similar structure, still confidential, non-evaluative. That person is trained as a mentor, but they're working alongside that teacher in the building.
Great. And so they're with that same person for the full 2 years?
Or same person for the first year, second year is going to go into somebody working in their building, but that one person is with them the first year, and they're always available by phone in the second year.
Oh, that's great. That's such a great system to have set up for them, that it's not just their first year there, that then that second year just to help get them transitioned even further.
Yeah, first 2 years will be the hardest.
And what about professional development opportunities? Does your district have anything specific for those beginner teachers?
So we do a few new teacher cadres. So we work really hard to make sure that there's a content group or necessarily a grade group. Buildings, we give them kind of a lot of autonomy to determine what supports they need within building. But I know there is them. We have a pretty robust PD program, but I don't know exactly what they are.
Okay, no, that's great.
Oh yeah.
So how do teachers and administrators work collaboratively to solve problems and respond to student needs?
So we operate under what we call a learning first schedule. So almost every Wednesday throughout the school year, it's 2-hour early release for students. And half of those days are designated teacher directed. So teachers get to choose what they want. And it's oftentimes meeting in their grade level or content teams or cross grade level content teams if they're working with specific students and trying to figure out how to succeed. The other half are designated administrator directed. So administrators kind of get to pick what training or what work they want done during that time. What I appreciate is that, given we have 42 schools, we give our buildings a lot of autonomy to kind of choose what's best for them and what they need at the time. Like, we have our district initiatives, but we know that the buildings know their students, they know their staff, and what work needs to be done kind of to support that. So district-wide, we provide support whenever it's needed, but overall, we give our buildings a lot of power to make their own decisions.
Great.
Yeah.
So I think kind of and again, this is kind of a hard one with everything that's happening, but what are the prospects for future growth in this community and the schools? Like, maybe we can speak to how it's been up until this point of, economic stability of the community and those supports.
So I would say we're in a kind of an interesting spot. So we are about 20 minutes south of Seattle. So we're closer to the site of Pierce County. We did see a drop in enrollment 2 or 3 years ago. Just families moving into Pierce County is kind of what we saw just kind of across the state, is that people were moving kind of out of King County, but it's slowly been increasing since then. We'll see how enrollment numbers come in after we're allowed to start enrolling students again, but
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty steady. There hasn't been anything like any crazy drops. You just kind of see gradual ups and downs, but nothing significant in the past 10 years.
Okay, that's good. And so I know we've asked a lot. Are there any other pieces of information or anything I didn't ask that you think would be helpful for students as they're preparing to graduate and go out into, the workforce and start applying? Anything that you would offer up to give them as advice?
My advice is there are 295 school districts in the state of Washington. Ask questions, find the one that's right for you. There's not a bad district in the state. I, of course, am biased and I think ours is the best, but it's not going to be the best for everyone. So ask questions, get to know buildings. I highly encourage you, if you're interested in Kent, reach out to me. I don't know if they get my information, but we can get that to them. And I can connect you with some principals, because I think that's the best way to learn about schools. We normally offer site visits, obviously not happening. So this is our next best thing.
Okay, wonderful. We'll definitely share your information with students. And hopefully, there's something we can do in terms of site visits in the interim, maybe Zoom's site visits, I don't know. But no, and I'll definitely relay that information to them so that as we get back to normal, they can figure out, how to connect, get that information. So, but this was wonderful. This is a great starting point for them. And hopefully they can talk to you soon and get more questions answered. So
Sounds great.
well, thank you so much for coming today. That was so helpful. And I know my students will really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.